TheJbeans.net.
We sailed on the MSC Meraviglia for 4 nights in early August 2021. Our cruise was just the 3rd sailing of the ship with paying passengers since the restart of cruising in the U.S. In this video, we'll provide an overview of our experience with MSC's COVID safety protocols that were in place during our cruise. A quick note that MSC modified their COVID safety protocols both the week before our cruise and the week after our cruise, and protocols will continue to be modified as the COVID situation changes. So be sure to check with your cruise line for the most up-to-date COVID safety protocols for your cruise. For our family, MSC's COVID safety protocols started a couple of days before arriving in our departure port of Miami. Our jelly bean, who's not old enough to receive the COVID vaccine, was required to have a negative RT-PCR test within 72 hours of embarkation. We found a rapid testing site by searching for locations in major cities we were driving through on our way to the port, including in our embarkation city of Miami. And there were many locations in our search results that offered same-day or next-day test results. On embarkation day, our overall embarkation process was well organized. The Miami Cruise Terminal staff took the COVID safety protocols seriously, and we saw them enforcing the rules several times, mostly asking people to wear their masks properly. Masks were required to be worn in the cruise terminal unless you were eating or drinking. Additionally, social distancing markers were located on the floors throughout the cruise terminal, as were hand sanitizing stations. The COVID safety protocols that were in place for our embarkation required several different pieces of documentation at different stations throughout the process. Because of that, we found it helpful to keep our cruise documents, vaccination cards, RT-PCR test result, health questionnaires, and identification all together and within easy reach. As part of our embarkation process, all fully vaccinated passengers were given white plastic wristbands to wear on board the ship. The wristbands were similar to those given at amusement parks or special events. Before boarding our cruise, all passengers, regardless of vaccination status, were required to take a rapid antigen COVID test at the terminal and wait in designated areas for a negative test result. Although we spent about a half an hour waiting for our negative rapid antigen test results, it still only took us about an hour to get through our entire embarkation process. When we boarded the Meraviglia, Daddy Bean and I were given adjustable wristbands that could be used to make purchases on board, unlock our stateroom door, and provide contact and proximity tracing if someone on the ship tested positive for COVID. We forgot to take a photo of our actual wristbands, but they were similar to the one in this photo, except ours were black. Our muster drill took place soon after embarkation, and MSC reinvented the process to eliminate the traditional crowding of passengers. For our cruise, we had to watch a muster drill video in our cabin at a designated time. We were given a code to enter into our stateroom phone after we completed the video and were instructed to stay in our stateroom until our deck number was called. When our deck was called, we went to the assigned muster station, where our stateroom key cards were swiped within just a minute or two as part of a continually moving, socially distanced line, and that completed the drill. With our embarkation day requirements out of the way, we turned our focus to the activities available around the ship. However, there were far fewer activities available compared to what we're used to on a normal cruise. After talking with a few passengers and crew members, it became clear that MSC typically offers more activities, but the numbers were limited for our cruise due to COVID safety protocols. For example, we love trivia, and we had a blast with our fantastic trivia host Sam. But there were only 2 trivias each day instead of 3, and seating was extremely limited because every other table was blocked. MSC did provide multiple show times for the theater productions to help with the COVID safety protocols. During our cruise, the latest show was reserved for vaccinated passengers only, and passengers were allowed to take off their masks after entering the theater. Some venues around the ship were also reserved for vaccinated passengers only, including the thermal area, the Horizon Pool, and the Horizon Bar. And there were events such as the silent disco that were reserved for vaccinated passengers only, which meant our Jelly Bean could not attend. 2 other areas that were affected by MSC's COVID safety protocols during our cruise were the water park and ropes course. Both activities were only open for a handful of 45-minute time frames throughout the day, and crew members sanitized the areas while they were closed. Additionally, the capacity for both activities was limited, and long wait lists for the next opening time were not uncommon during our cruise. For younger passengers, the kids' clubs were open and providing activities during our cruise. Prior to entering, all kids were required to sanitize their hands, and staff sprayed sanitizer on the bottom of the kids' shoes. There were no opportunities for full family activities except for the Kids Club treasure hunt on Ocean Key. All the Kids Club's performances were held in the Sportsplex, with parents watching through the glass that surrounds the 2-deck arena. Additional COVID safety protocols we noticed during our cruise included hand sanitizing stations were located throughout the ship. Disposable masks were provided in our stateroom and were replenished throughout our cruise. However, all of the masks available on the ship were adult-sized, so we were thankful we brought some extra kid-sized masks for our Jelly Bean. The buffet had designated entrances and exits, and hand washing was required at the sinks located at the buffet entrance. The buffet was not self-serve. Instead, crew members plated food and filled drinks as passengers requested. Touchless restaurant, bar, and room service menus were available by scanning a QR code with a smartphone or other device. We used an iPad, which made all of the menus easier to read. Daily temperature checks were taken of passengers entering the buffet and other restaurants. Stateroom keys were scanned as part of the check, so we always made sure everyone, including our Jelly Bean, had their card ready for faster entry. Seating was blocked off in dining, entertainment, and many other venues to maintain social distancing. The crew were frequently seen cleaning and sanitizing the public areas. We even noticed the karaoke team sanitizing equipment between performers. Several areas throughout the ship had marked capacity limits, which created a few socially distanced lines during peak times. Signage indicated a maximum of 4 passengers per elevator, and dots on the elevator floor indicated where passengers should stand. Elevator signage also encouraged passengers to take the stairs. Plastic partitions were added in several areas, like guest services, and signage indicated the maximum number of people per party that should approach the desk. Cards were provided during embarkation with instructions on what to do if you felt any flu-like symptoms. And every COVID safety protocol sign included a message to speak to a crew member if you were not comfortable with the behavior of a fellow passenger. It was clear to us that MSC took their COVID safety protocols seriously, and we saw them take action quickly if a passenger was not wearing their mask properly or not following other protocols. In fact, I was one of the passengers the crew had to confront. We were eating dinner one night and our jelly bean had to use the restroom immediately and did not know where the restroom was located. As I was taking her toward the exit, a crew member quickly and politely reminded me that I left my mask back at our table. True to the great service we received on board, the crew member also recognized the situation and escorted Jelly Bean to the restroom while I retrieved my mask.